Movie and Music Network, offering underground, pop, and esoteric cinema. Discover more at movieandmusicnetwork.com. A wormhole is discovered that can surpass the normal limits of space travel. Because the Earth has become environmentally destroyed, a team of explorers will use the discovery to find a habitable planet.
We must confront the reality that nothing in our solar system can help us.
But a widowed engineer must decide whether or not to leave his children behind or help save humanity in Interstellar.
Hi, I'm Zorianna, and I'm here with Leah and Sasha, and we're here to review Christopher Nolan's latest opus, Interstellar, starring the newly minted Oscar-winning actor Matthew McConaughey. Now, we've all just seen it. Leah, what'd you think?
You know, I didn't know anything about this film going in, and you go in and it really is kind of typical Christopher Nolan. For me, it was overwritten, overplotted. I felt like sometimes the techno-speak was too detailed, and at other times they glossed over it, so they didn't consistently stay with their scientific thesis, so to speak. But I felt like I liked the large ideas that they were playing with here. I liked the fact that they were suggesting that there are beings out there that we have a continuous connection with between worlds, you know, interstellar. I like the ideas. I just didn't think that the execution was fully realized or compelling.
I mean, they talked about these they, but those theys never materialized and kind of dropped off the face of the Earth or intergalactic universe. And I kept waiting for that reveal to happen.
Well, I kept waiting for a lot of things to happen. I kept waiting for the plot to make sense. I kept waiting for the acting to get less maudlin. I kept waiting for Christopher Nolan to actually make sense of what he was doing here. You have these amazing set pieces and these incredible visuals.
Yes.
When you actually look at the story, it is
very thin,
incomprehensible. It makes no sense. I felt bad because I felt like I was diminishing the experience of the people around me because I just kept huffing and throwing my hands up in the air and being like, what? And when you think about Christopher Nolan, you can't say that what he's done is always been overwritten and always been overplotted.
No, but when you look at things like Memento, when you look at
Memento is amazing.
Inception
sucks.
Amazing.
Oh, see, I loved Inception.
No, I think Inception was
Inception and Dark Knight Rises is when everything started going off track.
Right,
but Memento, Insomnia, Dark Knight, Batman Begins, those are great movies. And then something happens. He gets too much money, he gets too much power.
He believes his own hype.
He does.
And that this movie suffers from him believing his own hype.
Him and his brother.
And yes,
who wrote
the two of them. And the thing is I found myself almost trying to make excuses for this movie, like, oh, it was gorgeous, and the cinematography, the space stuff was, and then I'm like, no, this movie is not user friendly.
No.
She brought this in to show the other students the section on the lunar landings.
Yeah, it's one of my old textbooks. She always loved the pictures.
It's an old federal textbook. We've replaced them with the corrected versions.
Corrected?
Explaining how the Apollo missions were fake to bankrupt the Soviet Union.
You don't believe we went to the moon?
I like the grand gesture of this film. I feel like it reminded me a lot of 2001: A Space Odyssey. It reached for those stars, but it missed. I'm like, okay, he's reaching for more. I'm liking the fact that he is pitting science against the intangible, things like love. It's just that it's too bad that it was out of balance. It's like it was too wonky.
It was crazy wonky. To say that it was, yes, they talk a lot about science and they talk about a lot about love, but it becomes this thing where it's so trite. It is the emotionality of a Hallmark card with this really hard, rough science that is so hard to get into. And then when you actually look at the plot, you have all of this science. It's supposed to be grounded. It's supposed to be hard-hitting, but it doesn't make any logical sense.
Well, also the most interesting part to me was on Earth. I wanted to know more what happened with these crop fields and the dust and this world that they lived in, and I really wanted to know more about the relationships between the characters. There seemed to be a lot of broken family dynamics that I think everyone would relate to.
And let's talk about what happens when they land on these planets. The second act set pieces were phenomenal.
I thought they were amazing.
Stunning.
I thought that they were underutilized. He didn't really use the technology that he likes to play with, right? He did the same kind of grandeur that you see in Inception. He's got going on here, and I'm thinking he's going to do something fabulous with it. And
no.
I like the wall of water, but You did that to get rid of one of the characters? Really?
You did it to get rid of the characters, you did it to create stakes, but the timeline doesn't work out, the logic of it doesn't work out, and if you actually look at it,
They
it's
move
just
through it so
all-
fast that you don't have time to figure out, wait a minute,
it's
1
like-
minute here is 10 years there.
Sure, the pacing is completely off.
Oh,
and what I
please.
resented, I think, was the stunt casting of what happens when they land.
That made me so angry!
I
So
was like,
angry!
seriously, this guy?
Yeah.
That
It was
Yeah.
it was insulting.
It was
a cheap shot.
insulting.
It was a cheap shot.
It was disgusting, and it was so lame, and it pulled me entirely out of the
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
And I almost don't want us to say who the stunt casting is
we
because
shouldn't. We
let
shouldn't.
audiences be as
No.
annoyed as we were.
Yeah.
It feels like they're figuring it out as they go along, as opposed to that the writers actually sat back and planted some of those ideas in a much better way and then realized them later on, which would have been the smarter way to do it. You could have introduced this dichotomy between love and science, or that which you can only feel and that which you can quantify. They should have introduced that much earlier, and then that should have been part of the central tension that worked out throughout the movie, as is in many good science fiction films.
Well, can we also talk about the length of this movie?
Oh my
The near
God.
3 hours of this film, which I felt every minute of. You go see Gone Girl,
yeah.
2.5 hours, it flew, I never questioned it.
Yeah.
This movie is 2 hours and 49
It was
minutes.
painful. It was long.
I felt
I
every
kept
minute.
taking my cell phone out going, when?
Still. Yep.
What?
Right?
Still, I mean, I was like, we still have 45 minutes to
Yeah.
go. What can we possibly do for 45 minutes?
You know, I didn't really feel the time lag that much. I guess because I was so busy
You were
trying
in
to
the
play catch up and
wormhole.
trying to. I was in the wormhole trying to figure it out. Wait a minute,
Oh my God.
where is it going now? And how are we? And so I'm busy. I'm caught up in the puzzle.
It
That
was
is this film.
excruciating. I just felt like 3 hours. I was like, I could have done this and this and this.
You'll never
during
get those
this
3
time.
hours back,
I'll
honey.
never.
I do think that he's an incredibly talented filmmaker. I just think sometimes he gets in his own way. He and
Yes.
his brother, when they're working together, it's like we're really smart and we've got to put this all in there and this is what we have to do to ground it and make it serious and real cinema. It's like, dudes, tell the story.
This movie is bloated, self-indulgent, and it's far too long. Christopher Nolan ends up lost in the stars, and he fails to deliver a good movie. Stream it.
Despite gorgeous visuals, this movie represents a major misstep for Christopher Nolan. It is completely lost in space. Skip it.
Interstellar has its merits mostly in its ideas and in the kinds of themes that it wants to advance, but its rendering is less than out of this world. Stream it.
Well, our votes add up to 1 full ticket, which is a stream it for Interstellar.
That way, you can fast forward.
Right? You don't have to do the full 3 hours.
I hope that was good.